So let's modify this a little bit. We forgot to put a fillet in the bottom here, so that's fine. We'll go into fillet. If we right click on it, you can sit there and go to configure feature. And actually, sorry, that's just a way to do another way to do our configuration dimensions. Sometimes I'll do this because I'm still used to most of the commands being words. About 5, 6, 7 years ago, SolidWorks changed a lot of the commands into icons. And sorry, I had to cough there. They changed a lot of the commands into icons. And so sometimes I go and because I'm looking for edit feature, and it's like, oh wait, that's right. Even after all this time, I still forget edit feature is now an icon. So we go into edit feature, and it's like, oh well, I really wanted to add this fillet down here. So I have tangent propagation on, so anything tangent will show up. So we're just going to click that bottom surface because I wanted that filleted too. Okay, there we go. So I'm looking at it and I have all of my fillets now in there. Now, as I'm looking at this, I can sit here. Now, we've got a small little issue, and that is I'm molding this piece. I have fillets on the outside, but I don't have fillets on the inside. I have this hard edge here. What happened? Oh, I should have put the fillet before the shell, because the shell should have been at the end, because I need to keep a constant wall thickness throughout. And that's one thing, actually, when you manufacture something from molding, everything has to be a constant wall thickness. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reorder the feature. I'm going to just grab the shell and I'm going to move it down past the fillet. Now, if I could try to move it up before the loft and see, it's like, it screws everything up. And, oh, that's not good. So what we'll do is we'll just roll that back. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the shell and move it on the other side of the fillet. It automatically rebuilt there. So now if we go and look at things, oh, look, we have an offset fillet on both sides. And so that can be handy for when you're moving or you're fixing features. This is also one of the reasons why you have the fillets in the end. So when you move stuff around, fillets are notorious for crashing models. Okay, so let's take a look at our model. And actually what I want to do is let's take a look at a section view. But we're going to do a section view without making a drawing. So if I sit here and click on section view, and I can pick whichever plane, I can move it around, but it defaulted to what we wanted. So now we have a section view. This is not actually cut in half. The whole part is there, but we're only displaying part of it. This is super useful, especially as we get into assemblies and start dealing with parts together, to where you can peek inside and see what's going on. So that is neat. So we can see, oh, that's what we've got. So we'll just turn that section view off. And so we can sit here, and the next thing I want to do is let's label the bottom of this card holder. Let's actually put some words into it. We're going to, I guess after we mold it, we're going to stamp it with some kind of number. So let's go into Sketch here. We're going to choose the bottom plane. And what I want to do now is I'm going to use text. And so I'm going to drop text. You can locate it with a curve, so that way if you had a circle, you could put that along there. We're just going to drop this in here. I'm going to put it along that edge, and text, we're going to say part camp. Why not? And so now I can sit here and I can play around with this a little bit. You can make the text bold, you can italicize it, you can flip it vertically and horizontally. And so you can grab it and move it around. So now we've got it in there. I can grab that text and move it. If my computer was the glories of the work laptop. The problem I had is I'd put the curve in, which it went along, so it wasn't doing what I wanted it to do. So I've taken that curve out, and now I can move it around because it's basically just all tagged to that point. And if you were going to add any kinds of dimensions in, you could dimension to that point to have it show up exactly where you want it to be. Text is one of those things that I'm not expecting to see fully constrained text because you're never really going to get it because you'd have to actually go in there and do the part itself. But once the text is in there, you can always go in and change it to whatever you want it to be. You can always type it. Once you have it dimensioned, you can control the placement of where that point is. Okay, so now what do we do with that? Well, we can treat that just like anything else. We can use it to cut into something. We can use it to extrude it out. In fact, that wall thickness is pretty low, so why don't we extrude it out just a little bit. So we'll bring it out 20 thousandths of an inch. And so now we've embossed the bottom of that part there with our text. And it's only coming out from the back side. Okay, and the last thing here is let's pretend it's a translucent plastic. So we'll go over to Display Manager here. Try to go over to Display Manager. And we can play around with the appearance of the item. And so this tab here will give you the history of all the appearances that you've added. So we'll go up here to Edit Appearance, which is the little ball with the pencil. And so we have different ways that we can take a look at things. We've got appearances, scenes, and decals. We have a lot of different options under each of these. You have a lot of already set appearances that we can play around with exactly what it's going to look like. And we'll go for a clear plastic. Let's go for a translucent plastic. Ah, that was not supposed to happen. Okay, and so I selected my translucent packet, translucent plastic, and we can come over here and we've got a lot of different options that we can play around with. You know, we can sit there and go, we can look at illumination. You know, it's already set to being 90% transparent. We can play around with all of these kind of things. In the basic, you know, we've got the boss extrude. We can change the color. Let's make it a purpley kind of plastic. And then just hit enter. And so now under this little ball, we have a state set up. So we'll click on that. Actually, let's modify that because I picked the boss extrude, which is just that little text that we just put in. I want it to be at a whole loft. And so now we can see, well, just the outside of it is now because we didn't pick the shell too. So we can pick individual features like that. So we've been selecting just individual geometries. Or if I just pick the part, I can get the whole part. So now my entire part is translucent plastic. And so if we go shaded without the edges, it gives us a more realistic thing. And so we can play around with that. And that's useful for when especially when you're doing assemblies and you want things to look a certain way and you want it to look realistic. And there's a lot of options under here that you can sit there and play with, especially as we're looking at scenes. There's other things in there that you can play with about different backdrops and whatnot. And in edit appearance, once again, you can play around with stuff. So I encourage you just to have a little bit of fun, go in there and play around with things. But we've got all the stuff that you could want to apply to things and just take a look at them. Now, of course, I just did the brick, but the brick's bigger than that, so it didn't show up there. So anyway, let's remove these appearances. And so that's what we have. That is some of the more advanced commands. So we've still got some other stuff to look at, but there we go.